It's the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com at 7:48, away from the top of the hour. Bob Pollock with us this morning. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Bob, it is a sad day for us here at Indiana in the Morning because our friend, longtime caller for your segment, David Watkins, has passed away at the age of 82, died yesterday. And he'll be the arrangements in the care of the Rare Events Funeral Home. What a delight of a man. What a wonderful, wonderful caller for us. We laughed with him so much. He was great.
It was. It really was. I'm sad to hear that. He was one of my Penn State Master Gardeners.
Mm-hmm. He did that after he retired as Indiana
Yes.
Borough Tax Collector. After he retired as tax collector, the guy always wanted to be busy, and he became a Master Gardener. And that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
I mean, that's you have to put in the work for that to happen.
There's some training involved.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, sadness at the passing of our friend Dave Watkins. It is 7:49 in the morning. I feel like we have a standard to live up to now with him. We're going to have to find replacements for his wonderful questions. He always had something interesting.
Yeah, and they were always very practical questions. And I think part of that was maybe some hoping to. He might have already known the answer to some of those questions that he asked, and I think he did.
He very frequently would call with suggestions
Yes.
of answers for other listeners as well. Oh, there was somebody on the line who didn't make it all the way through the call, so we'll drop that one and hope whoever that was calls back to visit with us here this morning. All right, so let's get on to business here this morning. There was a story that we got today about people and their biggest concerns at the holidays, and one of them is finding bugs in the house when they have guests visiting. They think it reflects poorly on them, and the places where they are most likely to find bugs, they say, are in wreaths and Christmas trees. And the ones they're most concerned about are spiders, fruit flies, ants, and cockroaches. Some of those we're rightfully more concerned about if we find them in our house than others, right?
Yes, definitely. There's a pecking order there we should think about.
Yeah. The birds certainly would be pecking about that. We do find a lot of spiders in our houses in the wintertime. They have to find someplace warm.
They're there all year around. We just don't notice them.
Yeah.
Those little cobwebs, and there's all different kinds of spiders, and for the most part, they're beneficial. Mm-hmm. Are they a nuisance at times? Yes, but a lot of times they're off in corners and cracks and crevices and between joists and down the basement, and that varies by your house and the age of the house and
Sure.
how it was constructed, and all of that factor in, as to how many insects you might find living amongst you.
How many nooks and crannies, and of course you open up the garage door to get the car in, and they all say, "Hey, that looks warm," and they all come running. Of course, we don't want them to impact our lives. We certainly don't want rodents in our lives as well.
Right now, and when we start to get into mice and rats and cockroaches, then we have to really start taking a look at, because those can definitely transfer diseases. So those are pests we really don't want in the house. They can contaminate things, food, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are much higher concern, and we just need to look at that. And, the occasional mouse that gets in, that a lot of times that's hard to prevent too, just because of all the little openings and little cracks and things that they can slide through.
Mm-hmm.
You might look at that mouse and say, well, how in the world take a big hole for a mouse to get in? And not really.
They could actually disjoint themselves in order to get in. So they're going to find a way in eventually, and we have to deal with them.
Yeah, and that's so if you might have a cat in the house, and if they're good hunters, they can find those things and take care of them and leave them at your doorstep, or at an appropriate place so that you can see that they've done their work.
If you find your cat hogtied out in the garage or someplace, that means your mouse problem is really big because they've just overwhelmed your cat, and they're taunting you.
But going back to, we bring things in. So just like we can, whether we bring in a tree or a wreath, or we bring in house plants or tropical plants, any plants that we had outside, and we bring them indoors for the winter. There's a chance, and we've talked about this before, about inspecting the plants before we bring them in, just to make sure that, as best as we can, that there's nothing there that's going to become harmful. Most of the things, maybe all of the things that are you might bring in on a tree or a wreath, are not really going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. They might be a nuisance. We might get freaked out about them, but when we think about what they are, whether it's a aphid or a mite or a scale insect, and a lot of times they might not even, they might be there on the tree, but they might not do anything. They mm-hmm. might stay in that stage. They might not be in long enough. They might be in an egg stage, or now with aphids, those are could be crawling around. Mm-hmm. Mites could be crawling around. But again, they've got to have a host, and most insects have a pest range, that they're can attack. So if they're an aphid that gets on either a tree, or it might get on house plants also, that's a case where that could cross over and spread. But otherwise, there's a certain particular host, and mm-hmm. those things don't attack humans. You might get them crawling on you or something, but very easily smashed and taken care of.
Of course, we look for signs on our house plants that they do
yes.
have an insect problem, and that might be hard to detect as well. I know you like the white paper test. That's a good way.
Yes, that's a good one, especially for tiny things, mm-hmm. Because we can see them moving, crawling around. And there's a lot of, aphids are something that we can see. They come in different colors. A lot of times they're green. They'll be almost the same color as the foliage of the plant. And then, of course, there's mealybugs and scale insects that can have a white cottony mass around mm-hmm. them, and so they're a little easier to see. Other scales have hard shells. They might look like an oyster shell, and some of them are named that, depending on the plant they attack.
A lot of the insects that you have on indoor plants, especially if they were outdoor plants before this season, are insects that made their home in the dirt in which that plant is based, and so they might come crawling up out of there too.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, they're right in the top layer of the potting soil, and now they tend to also pretty much stay there. Some of those might be root feeders, so they oftentimes, you might see them occasionally, and oftentimes if we let the top of the soil dry out in that pot, that'll be enough to take care of them over time, because a lot of times they want to have moisture. So when it gets too dry over time, they won't be around anymore, or they'll try to go somewhere else.
A lot of times the indication for one of those bugs is when the TV channel mysteriously changes. It means they've attacked your remote. They're getting tired of watching Judge Judy. Oh, jeez. I had to. All right, so
there's a sign.
We're just about out of time here this morning. Bob, Merry Christmas to you.
Same to you.
We wish you the best. Next Friday, I won't be here, but Josh will, so it'll be the last time I see you until next year. So wish you the best. Have a safe one.
Same to you.
And there you go. That's Mr. Pollock from the Extension Service. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM. AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. Fox News is next at the top of the hour.